what are we actually going to do? We are going to have to bring our casualty all the way up to the working platform by using the rescue device. It's a haulage system by pulling him up. After that, they are going to package the casualty on top of the working platform. And then they're going to bring him down by setting up a track line. We have already set this one up. You see this one that's diagonally coming down? They're going to show you how they set it up, but we are essentially going to use this one first for the purpose of time, for the sake of time. As you can see, the rescuers, what are the first rules of rescue? Protect the rescuer. Don't let the rescuer become the next casualty. One of the biggest problems in rescue is everybody trying to be hero, and nobody wants to be trained, nobody wants to practice, nobody wants to get it right here, or 280. So don't just be a hero without the correct mindset and attitude. The difference between the rescuer and the casualty is the attitude in which he enters the situation. There's Richard setting up. Richard calls out once you are ready. See, Richard is setting up the telescopic rescue kit. The principles behind all these systems is very simple. They are going to hook up some kind of connection device to take the weight off the casualty. You see the casualties, look at the casualty. Where is the weight taken by? It is taken by his anchorage point up there, am I right? His safety hook. Our rescuer here is attaching the rescue rope to him in order to put it up to this pulley by taking the weight off the scaffold hook that the casualty was using. What is Nuzaman up there doing? He's preparing the stretcher. Rescue is a teamwork kind of thing. If you want to rescue people by yourself, you are going to be in... Okay, it's going to be damn xiong. It's going to be very hard for you, okay? So it's good to have a team. Now, they are hauling the casualty up. Is it difficult? Now, police systems, the whole idea is that it gives you some mechanical advantage, 2:1, 3:1, 4:1, so on and so forth. And you will see multiple types. There's another police system I'll show you later that they will be using. But essentially, they haul the casualty up to the working platform that they are at. And then they're going to transfer the casualty onto the working platform and start packaging the casualty. Let me have a show of hands first. How many of y'all think that at site we can actually do something like this without SCDF? Anybody believe that we can do this at site? There are a couple of guys who raised their hands. I will hazard a guess because y'all believe that we can do something about it. Am I right? We don't stand down there and look like another victim. Those guys are our colleagues, are our brothers. They work with us day and night. I'm not about to just leave them up there and say, I don't know what to do. Am I right? That's what you guys are saying, right? That's exactly the kind of mindset that we go into when we do contractor grade work. Now what are they doing now? They're packaging the casualty onto the stretcher. They need to balance this guy. What does he use? Richard?
Stretcher.
Sorry?
Come again.
What are you using in order to balance the stretcher?
Horizontal lifting breeder.
A horizontal lifting bridle. Just 3 different length slings in order to make sure that the stretcher will be level when they push the casualty out into the air. Now, obviously, when this is happening up there, what are they doing? They're doing their medical assessments. Just like any occupational first aider, they do their medical assessments up at the platform. Still breathing? Richard, still breathing?
Yes.
Okay, he's still on, still alive. Still alive, Come on, guys must root for the victim, Oh, jialat. He already took a big fall. Quite fierce. So we all praying for him now. Very good. 4 minutes. 4 minutes to do this.
Package complete.
Completed. Now they're going to set up the track line. See, they pull him onto this track line that's already set up. For the interest of time, we will just proceed with using the track line that is provided. Obviously, in real life, they will be setting it up. What is happening when this takes place on site? There should be many things happening. What is Richard doing? He's showing you how they set up this thing. This track line. This track line is a tension line that allows you to do what we call a high angle rescue, to be able to bring a package casualty from point A to point B via a vertical line. It requires technical training. It is a technical rope rescue method. For example, like SCDF DART, they will be using these kind of methods. Or the technical rescue teams, they'll be using these kind of methods. Now they're tensioning the lines. Is it a bit like a flying fox? I bet the casualty doesn't feel like a flying fox. So we basically just take it as a very serious business of saving lives. While all this is happening, what's happening on the ground? What do you think? We just said that there's a medevac station, right? Agree? Do we have road marshals to make sure that the entry point to the site, to the medevac location is clear? Do we make sure that the concrete pump has been moved off? Have we asked the NEWT operator to drive off the main road so that we clear the path for the ambulance? Should we do that? Yes. There are plenty of normal things, sensible things that we can do in order to help the casualty. Report one ready? What are they doing? How are you going to lift the casualty up and transfer him onto the track line? You see the yellow things that he's using? It's a 4-to-1 pulley system. What's he going to do? He's going to lift, using that 4-to-1 pulley, lift the casualty's stretcher up so that the track line is taking the weight of the casualty. See, he's lifting the casualty up, right? Now the track line is being tensioned. Do you see? This track line here is being tensioned, because the weight of the casualty is now transferred to this track line. 6 minutes. Those two devices up there are actually descending devices, not very different from what we are carrying right here.
Lowering.
Lowering. So now they are sending the package casualty down the track line. It's a good idea to be very gentle here. But you guys get the idea. Rescue is never pretty. It requires confidence. It requires training. It requires rehearsals. It requires a certain kind of courage. Now our casualty is hanging in the air. The only thing that's holding the casualty is the system. There's nothing else holding him. Coordination between rescuers, the guys that are doing the rigging, the guys that are doing the rescue setup, the guys that are doing the lowering, needs to be clear. Now they have brought the casualty down. Now look, with basic equipment, some training, rehearsals, an activity like this can actually be carried out successfully by the people on the ground. Now what's happening now that they have brought him down? Does it stop here? No, it doesn't stop here. The site first aiders have come. Ray Tzu and Derek has come here already. Come on, first aid, carry on. May I bring your attention up to here? Whereby the first aid is being carried out on our casualty. Check his vitals. How's he? Is he still around?
Gone already.
How's our friend? No pulse? No response? Shucks. What should we do? No breathing? Commencing CPR AED. They're commencing the CPR process. 30 compressions, 2 breath. Setting up the AED. This is a 2-person type drill. When you go for the CPR AED course, you will see that this is a 2-person drill. Can this be done by 1 person? Can this be done by 1 person? Yes. In fact, most likely you'll be doing it alone. So later you will see. Now he's attaching. Listen to the AED. Oh, the shock is advised. Stay clear of patient. Delivering an electric shock to the patient, to the victim, or the casualty, sorry. Commencing CPR. Continue CPR. The most likely thing you will hear from the AED is continue CPR. How many of you all have actually done CPR on a live person before? Anyone? I've done that only once. And I did it for 45 minutes without stop, and it was unsuccessful. I remember it to this day. It was unsuccessful. Are you the doctor?
No.
Are you the paramedic?
No.
Do you declare anybody dead? No. You don't. So what do? Keep on doing it. So we shall rest for a while. I'll just take a break while he continues to... How's he going? They are hopeful. The best thing you can do for your friend is to hope that he survives. And you continue to do CPR correctly. Listen to the AED. Obey the AED's instruction. Shock advice, stay clear of patient. Ooh.
Victim resuscitated. Alive.
CPR continue. Now, SCDF comes. The ambulance comes already. What do? Oh, just walk off. Cannot be. What they will be doing is they will be handing over the casualty to the paramedics. And some important information such as when did they start the CPR, how many shots was given via the AED, roughly what has happened, they should be clear in their head and be able to tell the paramedics. Okay guys, I think he's going to survive. Thank you very much. This short demonstration is just to highlight to you 2 things. We see from 2 sides of the coin. Rescue and occupational first aid is a serious and not so easy kind of activity requiring certain amount of professionalism, a lot of courage, a lot of skill, and a lot of endurance to carry out. We recognize that. But the other side of the coin is we are contractors. We work with our hands. We are proud of our people and we will look after them, right? And that is what we do every day in order to make sure that our workers are safe, so that our safety taglines are not just a tagline, but something that we believe in. I hope this demonstration was helpful, and I hope it clears some of your doubts about what we can or cannot do, and I hope that you guys all stay safe. Thank you.